3 times nuclear war almost happened that you probably never heard about. Number 1. The NORAD computer glitch. In the late 70s, both the USA and the USSR relied solely on computers to detect potential nuclear attacks. While this technology was indeed sophisticated, it also came with a new set of risks in the form of glitches within the system, resulting in false alarms. On November 9, 1979, technicians at the North American Aerospace Defense Command in Colorado received a critical alert that the USSR had launched a barrage of nuclear missiles at the USA, and that nuclear attack was imminent. The US Air Defense Program scrambled 10 interceptor fighter jets, ordered the President's Doomsday plane airborne, and advised launch control to prepare its missiles for a counterattack. However, when NORAD looked at its satellite data and realised that the attack was nothing more than a false alarm, the chaos ended almost as soon as it had begun. It turned out that a technician had mistakenly run a training program simulating a Soviet attack on the USA. Shockwaves were sent around the international community following the incident, with Soviet leader Leonid Brezhnev even writing a letter to President Jimmy Carter noting the tremendous danger caused by the error. Computer trick failures would lead to 3 more false alarms at NORAD the following year. However, they would be far from the last incidents caused by computer failure, almost resulting in nuclear war. Number 2. The man who saved humanity. After Ronald Reagan's 1983 Axis of Evil speech, Soviet leaders were so upset that tensions were the highest they had been since the Cuban Missile Crisis. According to Swedish journalist Peter Hundberg, who met with men watching over Soviet nuclear missile sites, the USSR strongly believed in an imminent US nuclear attack and were expecting to receive a launch order at any time. To make matters worse, the man responsible for giving the launch order, Yuri Andropov, the former head of the KGB and now leader of Russia, was seriously sick and being treated with chronic dialysis. On September the 25th, Colonel Stanislav Petrov was ordered to take watch as a colleague had called in sick. Later in the evening, the alarm sounded, signifying that a missile had been fired from the west coast of the USA. Then another was detected, and another. The computer warned an attack was imminent and 4 US nuclear missiles were headed for Russia. Despite the fact that Petrov should have reported this immediately, he knew that if he did, global war would be likely. He instead decided to disobey orders and wait. He wanted more information. He found it unlikely that the USA would only launch a few missiles, and knew that the computer system was not perfect. After a wait that must have felt like eternity, the missiles disappeared from the screens. It had only been a glitch in the computer system. The event was only uncovered when a senior officer, who had previously criticised the lack of details in Petrov's report for the night, told the story of what really happened on his deathbed. And as a result, Petrov has received little recognition since, apart from a movie titled The Man Who Saved the World, based on his story. Number 3. Able Archer. In 2013, the Nuclear Information Service got access to a classified US file on an incident previously known only by top leaders in Russia and the USA. Able Archer was a NATO exercise that took place in November of 1983. Its purpose? To simulate a Soviet invasion stopped by a nuclear attack. More than 40,000 soldiers were involved. Though Soviets had listened in on similar exercises in previous years, tensions were now at an all-time high between the two nations, due to the attitude of President Reagan, met with Soviet paranoia. Onshore of America were using this exercise as a plan to launch a real attack. The Soviets prepared to launch Operation Ryan, an acronym for an attack on the US with nuclear missiles that the KGB had put in place 2 years prior. The leaders of the USSR placed bombers on high alert with pilots waiting at the controls, and submarines loaded with nuclear missiles were placed in protected positions under the ice in the Arctic. All nuclear warheads were armed, ready for war. NATO concluded the exercise a few days later with the order to launch all nukes against the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. And thankfully, despite mounting tensions, no missiles were fired by either side. To further understand the way that the exercises were perceived in Russia, a documentary movie, 1983, Brink of the Apocalypse, was made, suggesting the lack of insight on the part of the USA and NATO put the world into mortal danger. Two spies convinced the KGB leaders that no attack was underway, and it was only an exercise. It is very possible that these two Russian spies saved the world for the second time that year. Hi guys, thank you very much for watching this first video by Apocalists. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please like and subscribe and help me get this channel off the ground.